Hi, my name is Megan Duran, and this is my final presentation for SPED 120 on IEPs and accommodations. So what is an IEP? Essentially, it stands for an individualized education plan. Sometimes this is also referred to as an individualized education program. It's a legally binding document for students with disabilities. It contains goals and accommodations to help the student succeed, and it details the services that the student will receive. This is kind of just a general overview of the important things that are in an IEP. It's a very lengthy document. There's a lot more in it, but in my fieldwork experience this semester, these are the types of things pertaining to the IEP that affect the student on their day-to-day classroom activities, their goals, and their accommodations. Those are the things that the teachers are working towards every single day, and the services that they receive. Those could be a variety of things, but those also impact the student's education experience on a day-to-day basis. So the IEP process overview. Essentially, first, a student has to be referred or requested to be evaluated either by a teacher, a parent, and the identification as a child with disability is then determined by professionals and parents together after the results of that evaluation come back. Once a student is identified as having a disability, an IEP meeting must be held within 30 days. This meeting includes parents, at least one of the child's general education teachers, at least one of their special education teachers, a representative of the school district, and an expert. This expert could be someone like a psychologist or a speech language pathologist, just to provide that professional viewpoint in the IEP meeting. Sometimes the student participates as well. This depends on the specific student. It depends case by case. Sometimes as students get older, they participate in their IEP meetings more and more often. Something that I found very interesting was actually this semester, I was very fortunate to be able to attend an IEP workshop through CUSD. It was for Clovis Unified classified employees, and it was just 3 hours all about IEPs, and it was a really neat opportunity. One of the things that they brought up there pertaining to this that I hadn't seen in my coursework for SPED 120 or in my field work necessarily, since I was just in a fourth grade through sixth grade autism class for my fieldwork experience, was that the older students get, the more that they should be participating in their IEP meetings, because once they graduate high school, once they turn 18, they then have all of that documentation and they get to take it with them to whatever college, university, continuation school, whatever institution they go to after high school. That document is then theirs to take. And the more educated that they are in that process, the more that they know what exactly is in that document and that they understand that it is a legally binding document, then they can be a better advocate for themselves once they are in that college, university, other institution. Because once they're over 18, that's their document, and their IEP can still serve them all the way up till the age of 22, I believe. And so they can take it with them to college. And of course, it is still a legally binding document, binding document, but it is important for them to be an advocate for themselves and know what's in that document and what needs to be done to make sure that the needs are satisfied. The IEP meetings must be held annually to measure student progress. That is like at least annually, but parents or teachers may request an IEP meeting at any time. This can happen at any time during the school year when parents or teachers feel that they need to reassess the goals or accommodations outlined in the IEP. So what? So why does this matter for general education teachers? I am on the pathway to be a general education teacher, and educators serve a diverse student population. I'm aware that although I am on the pathway to be a general education teacher, I am going to have students with disabilities. So therefore, I need to know about these IEPs and what my responsibility is as a general educator to a general education teacher to make that student feel included in the classroom, and as a matter of fact, make sure that my entire diverse group of students feels included and that no students are left out. So it's my responsibility as a general education teacher to provide an inclusive environment where everyone can learn regardless of varying abilities and needs. Students with IEPs are not the only ones who benefit from accommodations either. Truthfully, every student has varying ways in which they understand material better, and varying ways in which they interact with content better, and varying ways in which they can best express their understanding. So, teaching with this viewpoint not only will benefit your students with IEPs and those specific accommodations outlined that you're meeting, but having varying modes of expression, modes of instruction, having lots of variation and choice and options makes it a great learning environment for students regardless of their abilities. So accommodations, this is just some examples of accommodations: variation in instruction, the way students interact with content, and the forms of expression to show understanding. Choice and variety benefit all students regardless of disability. For example, I was just thinking of the TED Talk I believe we watched for this course called "Isn't It a Pity?" And she said an example in there like how closed captions are not just for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. Sometimes in a noisy room, we all read the captions to follow the TV. And another example I think of is the buttons around campus to open the doors for handicapped or wheelchaired individuals. I also like pressing those buttons with the back of my hand because it's less germy that way than grabbing with the front of my hand onto a doorknob or a door handle. So I thought that was great because there's lots of accommodations and choice, right? I have the choice to press the button to open the door, or I have the choice to grab the door handle and pull. Although that button was designed for individuals with wheelchairs and other physical disabilities so that the doors can automatically open for them, it's also nice for me, an able-bodied individual, to use as well. And the closed captioning idea is kind of the same thing. I love closed captions. I'm not hard of hearing. Obviously, closed captions are a very important accommodation for those that are, but they're also something that everyone enjoys. So in a classroom, I might find it easier, me as a student, I'd find it easier to read along with a video than just relying on listening and keeping up that way. Sometimes auditory information comes at me too quickly and it's hard for me to process, but reading, I'm a little bit easier with processing. So there's lots of accommodations. It looks like lots of different things, lots of variety, and it benefits not only the students with IEPs, but all students. All students can benefit from different accommodations. So the Universal Design for Learning Guidelines, Universal Design for Learning, it encourages variation in all parts of the learning process: engagement, representation, and action and expression. Designing a lesson that accommodates all students is worth the effort. This makes it possible for all students to succeed in the learning environment. Again, each lesson can be designed easily with UDL in mind. Teachers can always be varying the way that the students interact with the content, the way that they're allowed to show their expression for understanding, the way that they're engaging students. And if they can hit all of these different points within UDL, they can design lessons that include all students seamlessly. This might vary year to year, lesson to lesson, subject to subject. Obviously, not every year are you going to have students that are visually impaired, auditorily impaired, physically have a physical disability or an intellectual disability. You're not going to have all of these students every single year. But each year you will get to know your diverse group of students for that school year, and you'll get to know their needs, what accommodations help them learn, whether they have an IEP or not. If they have an IEP, it's nice because you have a whole team working that you get to be a part of, and you get to be a part of that process. And that team will let you know what kind of accommodations that student needs, and then you, as the teacher, can try them out, give them feedback, and that's great. But there's also students that maybe haven't been identified as a student with a disability yet, or maybe they just have something different about them that they learn better one way. Again, I'm not a student with a disability, but I know, for example, with the closed captioning example, that sometimes auditory information comes at me too quickly, and I learn better by reading. I like sitting with the text, especially when I can just read it at my own pace, process it at my own pace. And that's better than for me, is having closed captions on the screen during class instead of trying to keep up with the video. So there's lots of considerations when doing UDL, when using UDL in the classroom, but overall, considering offering different means of engagement, representation, and action and expression benefits all students, regardless of their abilities. Thank you.